Hello, dear hearts. Welcome to Connecting to Consciousness, where the focus is to explore, to question, and examine our perspectives. I'm Nasira Waters, and I'm excited to invite you on this journey of curiosity and self discovery. So, when I mention curiosity, I'm referring to a willingness to explore how we show up in the world. I'm referring to a willingness to explore our thinking, our behaviors, our emotions, to look at what is happening within so that we can create lives that serve our highest and greatest good. And so this is a self discovery journey that requires curiosity, the ability to and willingness to inquire of oneself, because the reality is we have the answers to our questions. It's just sometimes we have to shift. Now, for me, I've come to understand a few things based on this journey of curiosity and self discovery. I've come to understand these things that I am about to mention through my personal journey and through the process of supporting other individuals on their journeys. And so for me, this is a continual process. This is a process that continues to unfold and that I have every intention on continuing to pursue. The other thing that I've come to understand that this has provided a heightened level of awareness of myself, of, as I stated, how I show up in the world, how I've shown up in the world in ways that did not serve my highest and greatest good. It's an awareness of the greatest possibilities within me. It's also been an awakening of my thinking, my behaviors, my emotions. It's been an awakening in that it helped me to accept the ways and the patterns that existed in my thinking, the patterns that existed in my behaviors and my emotions. So, this process of understanding and awakening to these realities have allowed me to make decisions that served the best parts of myself. It allowed me to shift my perspectives so that I would stand in the truth of how I was showing up. And so in that, it allowed me to make those shifts, because what I understand is that if I'm unwilling to stand in the truth of how I'm showing up, there is no way for me to shift my perspective about a given situation. So the last note that I will make in terms of what I've come to one of the things that I've come to understand is that I have a complexity in my personality, as all humans do. And understanding having levels of understanding about the complexities of humanity, and more specifically myself, afforded me the opportunities to move away from being judgmental, to have more compassion, not only for myself, but also for others. Understanding that I am perfectly flawed. I often stated that as humans, we are perfectly flawed for our journey towards whole. And so understanding that I am perfectly flawed has been quite freeing, actually. And so I don't have to beat myself up while at the same time holding myself accountable. And so going through this process, I knew that there were certain requirements that I would have to require certain things of myself. One, as I stated, I had to be curious. Two, it required that I really had to practice having a humble heart. That I didn't have to be right all the time. That it isn't necessarily about being right, but more so about gaining an understanding of oneself, an understanding of why I thought the way that I did, why I behaved the way that I did, and why I experienced specific emotions. And so humility has been my friend for some time now, being humble. Then I knew that I had to require myself to have an openness to learn from others, even those things that I didn't want to hear. I needed to be open to hearing what people were saying, whether or not everything they said was true. I needed to take some time to consider the things that were stated. I needed to take time to consider the ways in which my behaviors and my words impacted other people. Not last, but the last of what I'm presenting in terms of what I had to require of myself. I also required that I extended compassion for myself. I knew that there was no way that I could go on this journey of self-discovery without having compassion for myself. It wasn't about blame. It wasn't about shame or condemnation or beating myself up. Although that happened in the beginning, I had to reconcile that and realize that isn't serving me at all. And there's no way that I'm going to grow and expand and deepen myself with that kind of mentality. And so shifting my perspective in that way allowed me to extend compassion to myself while still holding myself accountable. And so I know that, and I've experienced that, there are times where we think, oh, I know myself, I'm good, right? But having that perspective can often leave us with blind spots that prevent us from moving at the levels that we desire to move, from growing and expanding, whether it's we are growing mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. If we are unwilling to acknowledge that there are parts of ourselves that we may not see, and these parts may not serve our greatest good, if we're unwilling to do that, then it will be difficult for us to move in the ways that we may desire to, that our heart and soul may long to reach. And so for me, that was really important for me to recognize that I can learn, I can grow, that I don't know everything, that there's no need to live in pride, there's no need to live in arrogance, there's no need to live in entitlement. If I truly desired to live in a way and create a life that was going to serve my highest and greatest good, that there was really no room for that. Now, don't get me wrong, this is all a process. It's always a process. But my heart was committed. And so, like many of the individuals that I've supported and work with, this journey has been one of transformation. It has been one of enlightenment, one that propelled shifts in perspectives and perceptions. And so I invite you, if you have an inkling, if you have a longing, if your heart and soul is calling you to another level, to a different place and space where you are creating a life that's serving your highest and greatest good, I extend an invite to you to join us on this journey. If you've experienced or are experiencing levels of discontent, of disconnect, of mentality of lack or limiting beliefs, again, the invitation is extended, because we are all on this journey to live out the fullness of who we are. And my understanding is that the fullness and the wholeness of who we are cannot happen without curiosity, without humility. It cannot happen without openness and without compassion. Find me someone who has excelled in their lives, and I'm talking about an external excelling. Internal excelling. Without those things, I'm going to question it. Just saying, I will question it. But back to the matter at hand. Throughout my journey as a life coach, as an educator, as a parent, wife, single parent at various points, as a sibling, friend, daughter, and as a person of faith, I've had to come to an understanding of some hard truths about myself. And coming to those understandings was one of the best things that actually happened for me, because it allowed me to extend grace to myself while also exercising wisdom. Exercising the wisdom to walk in the truth about how I was showing up, to walk more in my wholeness rather than fear, to continue on my path of fulfillment, to continue to live with meaning and purpose, and to continue with intent, with intention, to live and create a life that serves my highest and greatest good. And lastly, to live consciously. And that part was crucial for me, to live consciously. And I say that because too often we have experiences, we engage in certain activities, events, experiences, unaware of how we're showing up, unaware of the thinking that brought us to that space and time, the behaviors that brought us to that space and time. And so going through this process of living consciously has enabled me to shift myself more quickly so that I do not go on a path that doesn't serve the best of who I am. And so I want to leave you with 3 steps that have supported me and continue to support me and many individuals that I've worked with. 1, explore. Explore through observation. Observe your thinking, your behaviors, and your emotions. I invite you to do that for 30 days. I invite you to write down what you observe. Write down your thinking, your behaviors, your emotions, without judgment, without condemnation. Just write them down. Be present with them. Accept them. But take note. Do this for 30 days. Now, of course, this requires that you are interacting with others and not sitting in isolation, because it'll be very difficult to do that and to have a meaningful impact on this process. The other thing, the next step that I invite you to do is to question. Question, why do I think in that way? Why do I have these patterns of thinking? Why do I have these patterns of these behavior patterns, these patterns of emotion? Now, what I also want to add is what I've learned over the years is that often when we ask why, the first why will give us a response that can be surface or not really get to the heart of why we have these particular patterns. So I invite you to ask yourself for each observation, ask yourself why 5 times and see what truly resonates at your core as to why these particular thought patterns, behavior patterns, and emotional patterns exist. Again, write it down. No judgment, extend grace and compassion. Write it down. This is a journey of love. This is a journey of self-care. I cannot think of a more loving journey than to be curious about how you show up in the world and how you desire to show up in the world. At least for me, it has definitely been a love journey. The last step I would invite you to engage in is to examine perspectives. And in order to do that, identify the values and needs that come up for you, the needs that these particular patterns of thought, patterns of behavior and emotions may actually reveal. So let me say that again. I will ask you to examine perspectives, meaning explore, identify the needs and values that the patterns of thinking, behaviors, and emotions may be revealing. So these are 3 steps that I share, that I implement into my process, my life, and it has been an immense process of transformation, of shifting my perspectives, and of just revealing so many other possibilities that exist in my life. So, if you're curious about how you see and living a vision of your fullest possibilities, I invite you. Let's take this journey together. Until next time, live consciously.